What's up, bro? How you doing, man?
What's up? How are you?
Chilling, man. Chilling, man.
That's a good
Thank
looking
you.
shirt you got on there,
Yeah,
Unc.
man. I
Good looking
like
shirt
that. I
you got
like
on.
that, man. I'll
Hey,
definitely
hey.
say thank you so much, man, for taking time to
Yeah,
talk to
man.
me and everything. It
Yes,
says here I've
I'm
known you
so happy
since
for you. I
the
think
70s, bro.
you have. Yeah, I think it was since the day I was born.
Yeah. Let's get into it, man. So in jiu-jitsu, you've been going at least 7 years now hard. Is that
Yeah,
what
it's
you
been
say?
7 years I've been nonstop competing. Started out, it's funny, like when we were kids, man, going to Victor Chang's, just getting involved with martial arts. And I just remember us watching Saturday morning, like the karate and kung fu movies, and the dudes getting in the boiling wine to make their skin harder and stuff like
That's right.
that. And us
Yeah.
with the ninja shoes and throwing stars. Mike, I have fond memories of us just growing up being fascinated with martial arts. And then it grew into you boxing, and then me going to the gym with you in boxing. My love for combat sports flourished.
You'd spend a lot of time with me down at the boxing gym and training
Yep.
and everything like that and working out. Do you think that having a little boxing background helped you?
Yeah, like day one, Mike, I got in and I could move around guys. Like my first day. Now, granted, I didn't have the kickboxing or the dexterity to throw a high kick, but man, I knew how to punch.
You already
I
had
was
hands.
doubling up a jab, and in MMA, nobody doubles up a jab. I double
Right.
up a jab. I throw the right bone, hook to the body, and they were looking at me like, oh, But in boxing, this is like your first week of boxercise, what you learn, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I definitely brought that with me when I started training MMA, and it was like it just made the transition much easier because I knew on the feet I could be all right with just about anybody. I could at least hold my own, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Speaking of the boxing gym, I remember one time you skipped school, come down there. The newspaper was interviewing David. Do you remember that? You remember what
Yeah, you don't
happened?
get me in trouble, man. Yeah, yeah, we were in the Chronicle, and I had
Yeah,
my
the
athletic
next
shorts
day
from school on,
you skip school, man, and end up in the
and we know
Chronicle
where
the
I was
next
at.
day. Dude,
Yeah, there was no playing hooky on that one. Everybody knew
right.
where I was at. We
That
were in
was
the front
proof
front
and
page of the
everything.
sports section, if I remember.
That's
Yeah,
right.
man.
You got into MMA first. It was training with Saul that you decided to go strictly to jiu-jitsu.
I was getting to the point where I realized, okay, at the time, I think I was in my mid 30s. We didn't have that many heavyweights. We had two or three heavyweights, and we had really, really intense spar sessions. It's not like it is today, where we know so much more about CTE and about brain damage. It's like, man, I remember one night after sparring, I didn't feel great when I went to bed, and I woke up the next morning. Man, I felt like even my speech was a little slurred. I just felt off. I was like, man, I can't do this forever, man. But I'm not done like with combat sports. I just hated grappling. I hated wrestling. I hated jiu-jitsu. And Saul's like, look, you either need to take a kickboxing fight or get better at jiu-jitsu because you can't fight MMA. Like you're terrible. And
Right.
so he had me come in and be the grappling dummy for one of his guys who was a big old guy. His name was Scott, really great guy. Scott's like 6'6", 300 pounds at the time. I ended up going in the mornings and kind of being, like I say, his grappling dummy. But again, I wasn't done with combat sports. So I was like, man, what can I do? And like I say, just that short amount of time of training with Scott, it was like 2 weeks. Man, I really started to enjoy it. I really started to enjoy it. And so that's when I decided. Saul's at Metro, they were only training the gi twice.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew to be an active competitor, I needed to do more than that. And so that's when I asked a buddy of mine, David Wolf. He was like, man, who also trained with me at Metro Fight Club for years. I said, where do I go if I want to be like in the gi? Like I want to be the best gym in town. He said, you need to go to Pablo Silva. I didn't even know who Professor Pablo was. He was an adult black belt world champion. I didn't know because I didn't know anybody in jiu-jitsu.
Mm-hmm.
I just know I showed up to his class at noon on a Thursday and they were killing each other. And I was like, okay, that's where I need to be. That's where I
This is the
need to be.
place.
And he's like, do you want to take an introductory class? I was like, no, I'm ready to sign up. And that was it, man. Signed up. Training with him almost 7 years ago. I started training the gi pretty much full time. In the minimum of 5 days a week. Some days I trained seven. Between 5 and 10 to 12 classes a week, man. So I was really putting work in for sure.
Wow, man. So when you initially started in jiu-jitsu, did you have any goals like going in right then? Did you already have a goal of what you wanted to do?
For me, the goal was always to compete. So, yeah, my first class was a competition class, and I just got killed. Professor Cliff Vaz was there, who was the first black belt in the whole nation of India.
Wow.
Everson Almeida was there, who was a black belt in judo and a brown belt in jiu-jitsu. And these guys were big guys. Man, I was like fresh meat. They just killed me. And to this day, I'm so grateful for it. They didn't know if I would keep showing back up, but man, I just kept showing back up, kept showing back up. And I knew right now I'm the nail, but I'll be the hammer soon enough. I just don't quit. Just don't
Just
quit.
keep going.
I never forget, and I tell him to this day, Professor Daniel Rivas got a school out in Montgomery near Lake Conroe. My second week there, he was like, man, what's your name? I was like, CJ. He's like, man, don't quit. You're going to be good. And all I knew, hey, it's a black belt telling me I'm something. He's not saying like today I'm ready, but he's saying, hey, you're going to be something. Don't give up. Man, it stuck with me. He probably didn't remember the conversation,
That means a
but
lot though,
I'll never
man, when
forget it,
somebody
man.
says something like that to
Yeah,
you
man.
that. Yeah,
I'll never
for
forget it,
sure.
man. I'll never forget
For
it.
sure. When you finally did compete and it was your first competition, do you remember what was going through your mind? Like, were you
Oh, yeah.
nervous or what, what was
Oh,
happening,
yeah.
man? What were you thinking?
Man, my first tournament was a Houston Open. I did that one with like a month and a half of experience in the gi. Professor Pablo
Wow.
taught me a clock choke a week before the tournament. I ended up finishing both guys with a clock choke. I remember winning that tournament. It was huge. It was a St. Thomas fight where we
Is
lifted
that
weights for
right?
years. It was in the gym there. Yeah, I was in the gym there. And they had over, I don't know, I think it was 1,500 competitors in that tiny gymnasium with 4 mats. And the Houston Open it was a big tournament even back then. I walked on the campus and it felt familiar because you and I have been there for
Yeah, we
years.
lift weights there and stuff. Yeah.
Pops been a member. Yeah,
Yeah.
for years. So walking on campus felt familiar. I walked in that gym, Mike. I felt sick in my stomach.
Mm.
I was like, man, what's wrong with me? Like I felt like I had goosebumps. I felt like the heavy weight on me. I just walked in. I was like, oh, you could feel the intensity and the energy. And I was almost like paralyzed with like anticipation, I wouldn't call it fear. I'd call it anticipation. And a dude could pull a gun on me, I wouldn't get that fear. Just because what we've been through, right?
Right.
But when I walked in that door, that feeling, I was like, man, I gotta have more of that. It's like
That
a
was
drug,
just,
man. You
yeah,
walk
man.
in, oh man, you walk in, that intensity, that anticipation, everybody screaming and hollering. It's like, man. I was like, I got to
Wow.
get more of this. So when they called my name, I walk out there. Keep in mind, there's only 4 mats in the entire gym. You could barely even walk. The bleachers are full, around there's full, and I was like, oh, it's go time now. And you just
Yeah.
feel your adrenaline's pumping. It's like, man, it's that feeling is. I don't have it as intense now anymore, unless it's like a major tournament. But man, that feeling is. It's
That
hard
was
to
going to be my
describe.
next question, man, is do you still get that feeling when it's time to compete? Do you still get that? Do you get any nerves still or?
Yeah, no, for sure. Anybody telling you they don't get nerves is lying. But I probably get 10% of that now. But it's still there, and that's why I keep doing it. If I ever
Mhm.
don't feel it, I'll probably stop
It
because
won't be the same.
I'm
Yeah.
not. Well, I'm not worried about it enough, Mike. If I'm not a little bit on edge and a little bit concerned, man, I didn't train hard enough. I don't love it enough. I shouldn't be doing it.
Right.
So the second that goes away, but I'll tell you what, I've had some people that I've worked with. They've been teammates and some people that I've maybe taught some moves to when they compete. Man, I feel worse than like when I'm coaching somebody
For
than
them.
I did as an athlete. I don't know why. Yes, I just feel
Yeah.
so much more anxiety because it's like, man, I worked
You're
with
not
this
in
person. If
control,
they don't
bro.
succeed, like it's on me. I
Yeah.
told them, hey, here's the game plan. We're gonna do bing, 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 and bing. And if it
Yeah.
falls apart, hey man, it's on me.
Oh, I know,
So,
man. Whenever I
but I
had a
love it.
fight, I was always
Yeah, Mike, you know
the
how.
dude may not even be thinking about it at all, man. He looks
Yeah,
calm.
man.
He's confident in his game, whether he's nervous or not, and doesn't tell me. But in my head, and I'm more worried for him than he is. But
Yeah,
yeah, I
man.
know what you're saying.
Remember the first time you took one of the guys to Tijuana, Mike? Remember the first time? Oh,
Yeah,
man,
man.
you're in
Pee
another
Wee Parker,
country.
man. Yeah,
These
yeah,
people want to kill you. Yeah, they want
yeah,
to kill you, right?
yeah,
And it's like
man.
I
Dudes
think
are
you took Kenny down there too.
yeah, Kenny the same way, man. But yeah,
Yeah,
it's
man.
like I want to bring this dude back the same way I brought him. I want him to be successful,
That's right.
So
That's
yeah,
right.
man. When you decided, man, that you were going to compete, how do you think your mom and your dad felt about it? Did they have any? I mean, I know you were an adult and everything, but
Yeah, they didn't like it. I don't think, and it's hard to blame them. We're parents, right? Like anytime our children are doing something that can be perceived as reckless, we kind of want to protect them. But Mike, like I don't think I'd be as healthy mentally as I am now if I didn't have it. Now, maybe I could have used something else, but man, jiu-jitsu has been such a healthy outlet for me
that's
that
awesome.
I need it, man. Like
That's
I need
great,
it,
man.
man. Does stuff happen? Yeah, it happens all the time. I got 21 stitches in my eye right here, 10 stitches on the top of my head here. My teeth have been knocked out, my nose broken, torn ACL, torn meniscus. Like, but man, when our bodies go into the ground, I don't want to send it completely healthy. I
Could
want to
have done
use it
this
up.
or whatever,
I
right?
want to use it
Put some
up.
miles on
Yeah,
it.
man.
You're not going to
Yeah.
garage it.
Yeah, I mean, might as well. Might
Yeah.
as well.
No, I hear you, man. I hear you. I was there, man, at the tournament when you tore your meniscus. What
Yeah.
happened, man? Was it just,
Well, here's what's crazy. If you remember, I was up 8-0, I think, or 6-0, and I
yeah,
was underneath in deep half guard, and I just rotated my knees, and it just, I remember feeling a pop. There was 30 seconds left. And so I tapped, not realizing that if I could have called the doctor, I would have won based on points, but that's beside the point. Yeah, and the lady says it's probably your meniscus, and I thought it hurts so bad. It can't just be my meniscus, dude. I was in so much pain, man. It just felt like my knee was on fire to even touch it. Kind of find out the doctor even missed it in the first scan, but I tore my ACL. It was my ACL and my meniscus.
So you tore your ACL
I didn't realize
and
it was my ACL and meniscus. So I got the first knee scope 2 months after I injured it, and the doctor didn't see the torn ACL. And I remember being in so much pain after the surgery, and the pain didn't get better. So I waited 8 months after that, and I went to see somebody else, a specialist named Dr. Bora. Shout out to Dr. Bora. Man, he took care of me. And he's like, hey, I had to cut a piece of your ACL was inside of your knee joint. That's why I was hurting. So when it tore, there was just enough to keep it from completely detaching, and it healed like this, kind of like a flag coming off.
So it was stuck in my knee. Oh man.
Yes,
bro.
So it wasn't a complete tear. It was like. So here's how it's supposed to be connected. So there was just a tiny piece left that left it connected. So when it healed, this part was solid and this piece was dangling.
Just in there.
So he trimmed that off.
Man.
Took out a little bit more of my meniscus, and I'm still dealing with this thing, unfortunately.
But so you got a clean trim.
I knew something was wrong. I got a clean trim. They took the comb off. I tell you what you know what they put in the knees? You know what they put in the knees?
Rooster comb. I know.
Synthetic rooster comb.
Yeah. That's right, bro.
Oh my God.
That's right. So man, how long did it take till you could train or till you could compete again?
Keep in mind, the first doctor says it's your meniscus. So he just cleared it out. So I went and was getting physical therapy every single day from a good friend of mine, Fonz. He has a great facility, Try Physical Therapy here in Midland, Texas. We're thinking meniscus. And so we're like, let's go. I'm pushing it. 5 weeks post-op, 5 weeks after walking out of the hospital, I was competing in Dallas. Not knowing I had a torn ACL. Because the doctor said it wasn't torn, right? So I'm not competing. I'm in pain, but I'm like, man, you got to suck it up. It's just a meniscus. They just cut it out. They didn't repair it. They just cut it out. I'm already in the latter half of my athletic career. Just cut it out. So he's thinking, all right, we're good. I'm thinking we're good. I get out there, and I just start having problem after problem after problem, and then come to find out it was torn ACL the whole time.
Oh, my gosh, dude. That's insane.
And
I didn't know. What type of results did you have between that, man? Did you get any wins in between that with
Dallas.
the ACL?
Yeah. No, I won. I did the whole circuit. Man, I grew up watching Red Devil, so it's like, man, I know how to be like
Iceman wouldn't have quit. You gonna quit?
Iceman, the Scratch Man, Scratch Man wasn't having it. So it's like, Game Scratch was like, let's go.
Hey, man, I'll tell you, I remember this story that goes to, how your mom may have felt. Do you remember when you wanted to do some amateur boxing in College Station?
Oh, I remember.
And do you remember when she hid your birth certificate?
Oh, I remember. I went home. I drove home. I was training like 5 days a week up there.
Oh, I know. I remember.
And so I drove back home. I told my mom, I was like, hey, I need my birth certificate. And she was like, why? I was like, I'm going to do an amateur boxing match up there. And she was like, oh, no, you can't do that, Jeffrey. I was like, Mom, just let me have my birth certificate, please. Man, she hid it and wouldn't give it to me. So what am I going to do?
Remember.
What do I do? Like, what is my choice? I have no choice.
I know, man. Brandon was laughing so hard, bro. I know.
What am I do? Like, what am I do, man? Like, there's
so funny.
I have no recourse. I have no recourse. It's like,
right.
Mike, the best part is this. She knew every Wednesday through Sunday night I was bouncing in the club until 3 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
But I can't get my birth certificate to go to an amateur fight. Yeah. You know how many fights
organized
I had?
fight.
Fights I had in the bar.
Oh, I know, man.
I had fights in the bar every night.
Dude, you should have been on the bouncer show, man. Man, dude, if she knew half the stuff, bro, that you had went with me and done.
Oh, man. Mike, the best thing was the least of the problems.
Man, you were rolling around to illegal gambling joints and everything. Man, bro, man, I'm so sorry.
Is Donald going to Wayne's?
Donald's in a chop shop. The location's not disclosed to the last 5 minutes.
Last minute. They got the plywood up.
Yeah. No windows, no nothing, bro.
Pit's ready.
Hey, we had to go through like 6 locks just to get in. Everybody's locked in afterwards, bro. Oh, that was wild, man. Let me get you back on to this one then.
Oh, man.
Here's one thing that's pretty cool, man. That you've gotten to travel, competing and everything.
I have.
Tell me a little bit about some of the cool places, that you've been able to travel, like even recently.
My first tournament out of Texas was Master Worlds in Las Vegas. And, man, you walk into that venue, it's insane, man. 20 mats, thousands of people there. They have a big convention, too. It's wild, man. It is wild. My very first year there was 2017. I lost in the first round to a guy who had been training for like, he's like an 8-year blue belt, really good guy. He beat me. So I remember being so shocked because I had won everything at white belt. And so I was like, man, I'm gonna go here and at least do well at blue, and I didn't. But I didn't get discouraged. Ended up going to Nogi Worlds in California. I've been to Pan American Championships in Florida, Pan American Championships in New York, Pan American Championships in Atlanta. Man, I've been all over, man. I've been all over the country. Mexico City is one of my favorite tournaments. Oh, man. I'll tell you a funny story. I had my Eagle Claw on. I'd already won both my division, Absolute and Gi and No-Gi, and I was walking and my medals was clanging. And so people were looking at me at the Eagle Claw. They go, bro. They thought it was like witchcraft. or good luck because I had my Eagle Claw on. I was worried about getting through customs, man. I thought customs was going to give me a hard time, but they didn't say nothing.
You may be supposed to declare that, dude.
They didn't say
I forgot to tell you about that.
I had my card on me. I was like, we're going to be all right.
Nah, they won't.
But Mexico City was a fun one. And then I just got back about 2 months ago from Abu Dhabi.
Man, that's crazy, dude. Tell me about that, man.
I was faced up against the number one guy in the world from Russia. And then on the other side of the bracket was a guy from Albania and a guy from Sweden. And unfortunately, at the last minute, none of them showed up. So I didn't have a match. But
I
was pretty disappointed. I called my sponsors right away and I was like, hey, I apologize. I'll make it up to you. Like, nah, man, you did everything you needed to do. Had a great camp. I was ready. But Abu Dhabi was wild. I'm very grateful that I was able to take that trip, and without jiu-jitsu, I mean, I wouldn't.
That's what I'm saying.
What would have been the paid trip? That's for sure, man.
Right.
Yeah.
What would have been
not
the
very
chances
likely.
you end up there without jiu-jitsu? I mean, it brought you all. That's awesome,
yeah, man.
Dude. How big of a role does diet take? How big of a role and how important is it in your training and in what you do, man?
Yeah, it's super important because there's times when I compete at ultra heavyweight where I don't have to really watch my intake as much, but getting in a camp and not eating enough to recover is pointless because if you don't, you're going to end up injured. It's that important. What we do is so physical that you have to make sure, number one, you're getting enough calories, and number two, they're the right calories. So I eat anywhere between 2,500 and 2,800 calories a day. I try to split up my macro split, like, majority is carbohydrates, then protein, and just a little bit of fat, like 60 grams or so of fat.
Oh, wow.
It just works best for me. Some people like the other way. They prefer to like a keto style, heavier on the fat. I know you've tried them all before, right? I have. I've done it. Man, I was vegan for 90 days, 3 times now. I've tried that. The reason I went back to veganism again was because it just shuts down my inflammation. But it's too taxing for me. Like, and nothing against like people who want to live that lifestyle. Yeah. But for me, it was just I felt flat after training. And keep in mind, like I'm working 8 hours. I'm getting up, taking the kids to school, and then I'm running to work. Then I'll go lift weights, and then I'll train jiu-jitsu, or I'll train jiu-jitsu to go lift weights. Feed CJ, put him to bed, and it's like here we go, right? So I really have to have something mapped out the whole week. Like tomorrow, I'll be cooking for probably 5 hours. Okay. Just to get some things prepared,
Have it all ready.
Because diet is super critical. Oh, man, it's super critical. Super critical.
Yeah. I know you do strength training. Do a lot of guys, man, that compete do strength training, or is it something that's,
Yeah, I think the serious ones do. I also implemented some yoga. It's helped me a lot,
too.
Right? Because I think that as we get older, we lose a lot of our dexterity and our flexibility, and that's very critical to making sure you stay healthy. It's like, man, if something's tight, it's just going to be the first thing to break, the first thing to snap. So it's definitely important to make sure you're staying limber, especially doing something like jiu-jitsu where somebody's going to take your knees and push them down to your ears or something like that. You got to make sure you're not stiff. So I have to do something to kind of counterbalance. The lifting tightens me up and the yoga loosens me back up,
Gotcha.
I do old school lifts. Some guys do CrossFit. That's not for me. I just need to build up the muscles around my major joints. So I'm not even doing it for aesthetics. Aesthetics is kind of like a byproduct. Right. For me personally, I just need to make sure my joints are protected. Remember when I tore the disc in my neck? The only way I got back was like, I didn't have somebody hold me on the edge of the ring, pushing my head down with a towel. So I bought a head harness. And I started with 5 pounds, bro. That's how little I could do. 5 pounds.
Man, I've seen some of your pictures of your heavyweight on your neck. Yeah, man.
Yeah.
As far as strength training, jiu-jitsu, like what is a typical week of training look like for you?
So typically I'll lift weights. I lift weights every day of the week, roughly 40 minutes. I'll train jiu-jitsu at least 1 class per day normally, except for Sunday. Sunday I might do a little bit of drilling, but that's about it. And most of those classes are a mix of competition classes and technique because it's a balance, right? Same thing in boxing. Like if you went there and sparred every day, you're not going to get cleaner technique. So you have to mix the two, right? So end up being one day will be an hour of drill, with 3 or 4 minutes of sparring. One day will be all sparring. The next day will be drill with a little bit of sparring, then all sparring. And the next day will be drill with a little bit of sparring, and then Saturday will be all sparring. It's like a competition style class.
Man, that's some serious
So
training, bro.
so
That's yeah.
yeah, so normally between six and 10 classes a week, depending on what's going on. If I'm in camp, I'm training twice a day typically.
Twice a day, no matter what. And are you talking
Yes.
about twice a day jiu-jitsu? Or
Jiu-jitsu. Yeah, I don't even count weight training. Yeah, I don't even count weight training.
so you'll do
But
two
yeah, I'm
jiu-jitsu and one weight training
absolutely.
possibly even. Wow, man. Yeah, see
Yes.
that's
Yes.
the dedication that it takes though, man, to compete at that level and,
If you want to be world class,
be
Mike,
sharp.
it's like this the only way to do it, man.
The next two questions I got for you come from Louis Bono. He was wondering, do you ever watch film on future opponents when you're training? Is that something that's standard or anything like that?
Yeah, I typically did not up until brown belt, and then I started doing it because guys were getting tougher.
Mm-hmm.
As you get closer to black, man, the level just it keeps getting up, and so the window to hit a move on white belt, you have this much, right? You got a big easy. Blue belt, still purple belt, okay. Brown belt, it gets smaller. And black belt, man, your window's like this. You have to know tendencies. You have to know what they favor. Which leg they have forward, what
Mm-hmm.
grips they like, what's their favorite move, their specialties, their attacks. What do they not like?
Mm.
Where have they lost? And if they lost, how did they lose? So there's a
Right.
website. It's called Flow Grappling that has all the videos, but they
Mm-hmm.
have a library of all the major events that anyone's competed in. And kind of when
Oh,
you get to a
wow.
higher level, you're going to find footage on these people
There's
because
probably
nobody just
more as
shows
you
up
get higher.
to
That's
the
what I was
world.
thinking.
Yeah, and nobody shows up to the world championships without doing something somewhere at some belt, right? They're
Yeah,
not just
yeah.
going to show up to worlds at black belt and have no footage on them. So
Right.
I do. I don't do it as much as I should. That was a good question. Louis had a good question because
It really
I
was,
should do it
man. It was a
more,
good one.
and I will do it more at black belt for sure because some of these guys have been black belts for longer than I've been training. So it's
Wow.
like I'm gonna have to see what I can figure out to get into my spot. I can't beat them jujitsu for jujitsu, right? But if I can get to my spot, I feel confident. If I get a hold of somebody's foot, that I can make them submit.
Make them do it right. What you want. Okay.
Hmm.
His other question was, do you ever hold back, or have you ever held back in a match for fear of hurting a guy or an opponent or anything like that?
What's great and what's terrible about jujitsu is that you become friends with people very quickly, especially in the masters division, which is over 30. And so there's guys that I'm really close with that I definitely should have gone a little harder on, but I felt confident that I was in a dominant position. So I don't feel the need to like really crank something, or I've had guys tap when I just touch their foot because they know like what's coming. I've torn guys' Achilles, unfortunately, not something I'm proud of. I broke people's feet, but at the end of the day, it's like Professor would always say, it's better that their mom cry than my mom cry, right? So it's just the nature of what we do.
Right.
I don't go in there with the idea of, man, I can't wait to hurt somebody today. But if somebody's gonna get hurt, I don't want it to be me.
For sure, man. Yeah. I mean, you got to protect yourself. That's number one right off.
I remember at Nationals one year, a dude, he was pretty confident going in, and I had his foot in a standing foot lock, and his foot, I could hear it break. And I
Oh,
looked at the
man.
professor, the referee, and I just told him, I'm sorry. He's like, no, it's his fault. I don't know why he didn't tap. If I
Yeah.
have your foot and I'm literally picking you up off the ground, like with the foot lock, like I don't know what he thought was gonna happen.
Yeah,
But
yeah. What was the outcome going to be, man? But yeah,
yeah, man.
but like you say, that's part of the deal, man. When you're in combat sports,
Yep.
man, there's a chance that that's going to
Yep.
happen, and you do have to know when to tap, bro. You do. Since you've progressed and you're a black belt now and everything else, has any of your goals changed? That I know you still want to compete and everything else, but is there any other things, man, that has
Yes.
changed?
I want to win a major title at black belt. If I retire before winning a major title at black, I will feel unfulfilled. That is something that I definitely want to do. I also want to focus more on coaching, man. I definitely want to build up kind of the next generation of athletes.
That's
Um,
awesome.
I really want to have a program that's geared around giving children an outlet that I kind of wish you and I would have had. You had it with karate for a certain extent, but it didn't really scratch that itch for us all the way. I want to create something that I wish we had as kids. And so I will be opening a gym,
Oh,
and
that'd be cool,
I want
man.
it to be focused on kids and like a family environment. You know what I mean?
Awesome.
I feel like what the hood could always use is an outlet for kids.
Yeah.
So
For
many
sure,
kids
bro.
today, you know, the problems that people have in their kids have in their households are still there, and now they got video games, cell phones, and everything else. Man, they need that physical interaction, that
Physical.
physical
Yeah, man.
stress
For
to
sure,
help them
man.
kind of get lined out, and that's what I
Right.
want to make, man. Give them a positive outlet
Awesome.
to instill discipline in them, let them know they got hope. Hey, man, you don't have to be doing the stuff on the street. Come here, train, work hard, and accomplish some fun things, man. I really think, and I'm gonna tell
That's
you, man, it
cool,
might
man.
sound crazy, but I really want to build a world champion out of some of these kids that nobody wants, man.
For
Like I
sure,
think it can
man.
happen.
Yeah, man. There's so many
Mhm.
people just hopeless, man, and just
Yes,
wanting the right person just to step in and be like, hey, man, look at how many. I mean, seriously,
yes.
man. Yeah.
I've made some great friends with my training partners as well. Dusty Shellhammer and his wife Mara, or why I'm in Midland. Dusty invited me out years ago, and I wouldn't even have been out here if in 2015 he hadn't kind of pushed me to come out here. I didn't even know where Midland was. I knew where Odessa was because I knew you'd come out here to bring guys to fight,
Boxing
but
and
I didn't know
stuff.
where
Yeah.
Midland was. Yeah, man. And so
Wow.
I came out here and just fell in love with the city, man. Got some great friends like Jacoby, Asif. I mean, the list could go on and on. Like everybody in the gym has just been fantastic, man.
That's awesome, man.
And since 2015, I think we've won like 90 major titles. I think I'm
Man,
at like
that's
19, like
is that right,
19
dude?
major titles. And it speaks to the room, the coaching. It's like all of it goes together, man. Because if you got a great coach and no training partners, then it's hard to get there. If you got a great set of training partners but no coach, it's hard to get there. You just have to have the right balance of everything. And that's what I've been very fortunate to reap the benefits of, man. And some great training partners, some great
Yeah.
instruction. Once you see somebody do it too, Mike, it's like, man, I can do that. He did it. I can do it.
Right.
And so it's like, man, it just catches fire. It just catches fire. Yeah, we'll go to a major tournament. It's not unusual at the World Championships to come home with multiple world titles for the gym.
Wow. Man,
The,
that's
the
awesome.
city has 150,000 people, Mike. Man, I want the kids to see that even if they don't fall in love with jiu-jitsu, I'm okay with that. I just want them to see the work. I want
Right.
them to see the work that I
Yeah.
did. So whenever they're tempted to quit, be like, man, I can do this. Like dad worked all day long, trained jiu-jitsu, lift weights, and then came home and got on the computer for 3 hours at night, whether I be designing something for certain fiber or else I'm working on another side business, put some things together. It's like, man, like I want them to remember the work the same way I remember mom working 3 jobs when I was a kid. Like I want
Right.
them to remember the work, man. You know what I mean? I
Yeah.
want them to
For
remember the work
sure,
ethic,
bro.
you know?
What advice do you have for somebody who is considering getting into jiu-jitsu or may want to compete? What advice do you have for
Mhm.
them, man?
Yeah, I would say just make sure that you check out the gym and see the environment, see if it's something you might be interested in. Because listen, not every gym is for everyone. Some gyms are more geared towards competitors, some are geared more to kids. So I can see somebody who wants to compete like I did, go to a gym, just focus on kids and feel unfulfilled and quit. Make sure you know where you're going. And I'm gonna tell you what, ask around. There's so many people training jujitsu these days. If you don't know somebody, somebody you know knows somebody. So
Right.
ask around. And the second thing I would say is don't get discouraged. Like you're gonna come in there and you're gonna get beat up. Just keep showing up. That's all. Just keep showing
Right.
up. Just keep
Right.
showing up. Don't quit. If you don't quit, man, you're gonna get to where you want to be. For me, I'll tell you a funny story. Is I never thought I was gonna be a black belt. I just wanted to get to purple because purple when I was coming up was the professional belt. If
Mm-hmm.
you got the purple belt, you were legit. Because everybody knew the difference between purple and black was very little.
Mm-hmm.
Once you got the purple, that was the one. So like when I go to classes that weren't taught by Pablo, they were taught by purple belts
Mm-hmm.
because those guys were like they were the next ones. They were the
They
next
they
ones.
had
Or if I'm
enough
working privately with
knowledge.
somebody, they were
Yeah.
purple belt. Yeah, yeah, that was like the professional belt. So when
Mm-hmm.
I got to brown belt, I was like, wow, this thing is real. Like I'm gonna be a black belt. And I remember just
Dang.
being so shocked by it, Mike, because I just didn't think about it, man. I just thought I'm gonna win everything until nobody can deny me. I'm just gonna keep winning titles until nobody can deny me my belt. And then brown belt was much more difficult than purple. Purple, I won everything you can win. I think I won 9 major
Mm.
titles, maybe 10. When I got to brown, I had a much harder time. I had
Yeah.
three major
Yeah.
titles at brown, but only three, right? Only, I mean, granted, some people maybe never win one, but for me, it wasn't acceptable
Because you
because
you
I'm
were
used to winning like,
very competitive, right?
yeah, I mean,
Right. Are there any sponsors, people like that you want to mention, man, that help you out or have helped you out along the way? Anything like that, bro?
Toyota Katie has been behind me since I was a white belt. John McGill sponsored me. He was there in my first match as a white belt, man, and he's always been behind me. East Texas Oilfield Supply, Cruise Combat. When I was a blue belt who hadn't won anything, Ryan and Cruise Combat got behind me. We've been working together ever since. And Ryan's just a great guy. He and
Awesome.
his wife Nikki are just wonderful, wonderful people, and just a pleasure to work with, man. I love sending customers to him because I know they're going to get taken care of and the work's going to be perfect work, man. Pro Source Hydration, Dustin out there, he made Abu Dhabi happen for me, and without him, I wouldn't
Wow.
have made it for sure. I get these IVs once a week, and man, my recovery goes through the roof once I get them.
Is
Got
that right?
branched chain amino acids, vitamins, yeah, everything else, and it's just, man, it helps me so much, man. And so I'm just so grateful, man, because being a Master 3 competitor, black belt now, but was brown belt, it's just a pleasure to work with these folks. I like finding good partners, man, because at the end of the day, people want a sponsor to take something. I'm looking for a relationship because I
Right.
want to have the same partner for good, man. Like I want to
Yeah.
be with the same person, like for good.
Yeah.
And so I've been able to build some really good relationships here in town and all over Texas, and I'm just very grateful. I'm very grateful, man. I'm
Yeah.
humbled. I'm humbled by their support for sure. I wouldn't be able to do half the stuff I did without these great sponsors, man. So I'm so
Man, you
grateful
got
to
some
them.
good sponsors, dude.
And so
That's
I
right.
even posted on my wall. If listeners want to go to my wall, I posted a story on sponsorships and I spelled it out. I was like, "This is what you need to do." And I'm so grateful to have such a loyal following on Instagram that when I post stuff, my people just swarm it. They just swarm it
Yeah,
and go
that's
for it.
awesome,
So it's
man.
like, man, I'm just really grateful. Man, I got to shout out Steven and Katie, man. How about this brown belt and purple belt we got, man? Like
Awesome, man.
in
Yeah.
our
What's the
family. How
chances,
about it,
dude?
man?
Cousins,
Oh
other
man,
cousins doing it, man.
I
Yeah,
think it's
Steven. Yeah,
beautiful,
for
man. I think
sure,
it's
man.
beautiful, man. I think
That's
it's beautiful,
awesome.
and at a great school too, man. Hilly and Gracie's a legit
Yeah.
school.
Dude, I'm telling you, man, I'm so proud of you. Can't even
Thank you,
explain
bro.
it, dude. I'm serious, man. Like,
I'll be
really,
honest with you, Mike.
really, really,
None of it
bro.
happens, bro. None of it happens if you hadn't kind of lit that fire at combat sports. I really believe that, man. I know I wouldn't have gone to Saul's, and I know I wouldn't have found Jiu-Jitsu if you hadn't kind of got me into combat sports early, man. That's the honest to God truth. So
Oh, man, I'm
you know,
happy,
I'm very
dude.
grateful. Like I don't know if you saw my post, but I'm very grateful, man.
Hey, I really appreciate it, man. Taking the time to sit down and do this with me, man. I've been wanting to do it for so long, dude. I'm super proud of you, and I know you're going to continue to reach all your goals. And I can't wait till you come back here and compete again, man. When you come back to Houston,
Man, I wanted to come this last trip. I wasn't able to make it. Maybe if they have one by the end of the year, maybe I'll sneak through,
you
man.
gonna get one more,
But Mike,
man.
I want
Then,
to tell you, I'm so proud of you too, man. This podcast
oh
has been
man,
fantastic. Man, the one
thank
with
you,
Scott
bro.
was just riveting. I just couldn't watch it enough, man. It's just I
That's
love his
awesome.
story. I remember when he got out and he messaged me on Facebook. It's like, man, I just love what you're doing,
Yeah,
the positivity, and I just appreciate you so much, man. I love you. I'm so grateful for you, and I'm glad Brianna's there to help
thank you,
walk
bro.
you through the
Yeah,
technology.
man. I mean,
Love her and
if
miss
I
y'all
didn't
so
have a
much,
producer,
man.
bro, to help me keep me on in line,
Producer Brianna, just love her to death, man.
that's right, bro.
Bianca,
Hey,
Bianca.
hey, bro. I love you, man. You're the best, dude.
I love you
You're the
too,
best.
bro. Thank
All
you,
right,
Mike, for
man.
having me on,
For
man. I
sure.
appreciate it so much, man.
What's up, bro? How you doing, man?